Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Getting Personal with Parkinson's Facebook Live weekly conversation series. I'm Caroline Collis, the Senior Director of Health and Wellness for the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan and the Program Coordinator for the Edmund J. Safra Parkinson's Wellness Program, supported by New York's largest healthcare provider, Northwell Health. For over 12 years, the JCC has been hosting programs for individuals living with Parkinson's. And you can find these programs on our website at www.mmjccm.org/Parkinson's. You can see the link below in our comments section. It's great to be back here on Facebook after the Memorial Day holiday weekend here in America. And for those of you joining us for the very first time, welcome. This program is for anyone whose life has been impacted by PD, those diagnosed, as well as family and friends. And we want this conversation to be personal, to help us put a face to Parkinson's and to introduce you to people living and thriving with PD. We will speak with experts who will share updates and research, and maybe even a celebrity or two will stop by, but mostly we're going to be talking to people who are living with Parkinson's. And we welcome your input. If you want to be a guest, or if you know of someone we should feature, or if there's a specific topic that is of interest to you, please let us know. All inquiries can be directed in our comments section to Whitney Chapman at wchapman@mmjccm.org. And her information will be in the comment section, and write her a personal note. She's really personable and fun, so you can ask her any question you like. Now, I have to say, I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Matt Eagles. Matt has been living with Parkinson's since, wait for it, the age of 7. I kid you not, I didn't even know you could have Parkinson's at such a young age. Matt's life journey is really insightful and inspirational. In addition to having studied law, having worked in publishing, Matt describes himself as a positivity advocate. And after you meet him today, I'm sure you can see why. Matt and I had a chat that we pre-recorded, which I want to share with you now, and then we'll be meeting you afterwards for a live Q&A. Matt's here today, broadcasting in from London, so be sure to stay tuned, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section and we'll happily answer them. And now, on with the show.
Hi, Matt. Nice to see you.
Hello there, Caroline. Thank you very much for inviting me on. I'll just better say, I'm going to try and stay in one place because sometimes I get a bit of dyskinesia and I wriggle about a lot. It's good when I'm speaking to people I like, or I'm getting a bit excited about stuff, but I will calm down during the talk, so don't worry too much about that.
Well, I might not. I'm a dancer, so I like to wiggle around myself. So don't not stop moving on my account. I just was wondering, where should we begin? I think, what is your relationship with Parkinson's disease?
Well,
how has it manifested for you?
I've lived with Parkinson's as long as I can remember. In fact, according to my digital health records, I was diagnosed on my 7th birthday in 1975.
Wow.
After it kind of manifested itself in a peculiar way. First of all, I lost my sense of balance. I used to walk on my tiptoes and sort of tiptoe along on my shoes. And then what else did I do? I had a pain in my shoulder, which as a young child was quite upsetting. But I think I was very sporty when I was younger, even as a young boy. And it was actually noticed at I guess, the equivalent to elementary school, because at the beginning of each day, we used to have like an assembly where the headmaster used to address the whole school. We used to have maybe a hymn or something along those lines. The whole school would stand in front of him, and I just couldn't stand up. I kept on toppling back. But people thought I was being silly and playing the fool, when really I wasn't. Similarly, when I played sport, my uncle and my father used to come and watch me play rugby. And for some reason, I just couldn't keep up with the other players. And I'd get knocked down really easily. And they didn't know that. They would shout at me because they, come on, Matt, come on, Matt. And I was like getting quite upset because I was genuinely trying, but for some reason, I just couldn't keep up. It was horrible. As a young boy, it's quite a scary situation to be in, really.
Sure. Wow. And so then you were diagnosed, and was that better? Did they have medication at that time?
Well, it was a strange one, really, because I only found out very recently that they knew I'd got Parkinson's in 1975, because subsequent to that, medical professionals are very loath to diagnose young children and young people in general with what's considered a disease of aging, normally associated with people 60 and over. So they were very, I mean, all I wanted to do was not be in hospital all the time getting prodded and poked. They looked at alternatives. They thought I might have, because I couldn't stand up and I had to, they looked at arthritis of the knees, juvenile arthritis. That was ruled out. They thought I had a brain tumor. That was ruled out. And in fact, I think it was in 1977, I had one of the first MRI scans. I think at the time there was only 2 scanners in the UK, one in London, and there was one at a hospital in Salford. And I can remember very, very vividly, and it just felt like putting my head in the washing machine, and it was quite a scary sort of experience. But one of the doctors I was sent out to see, he must have a pure intuition. He decided that, hey, this young man or this young boy, he might have something similar to Parkinsonism. I mean, they were very, very loath to sort of diagnose me, as far as I can remember, anyway. But anyway, when I was 8, I began on Cinemet or L-Dopa. And the reason I remember that is because I was actually given 50 pence to take Cinemet. I remember it because I remember looking at the coin in my hand thinking, how lucky am I? Because 50 pence back then was quite a lot of money, more than a month's pocket money for me as a 7 or 8-year-old. So I was made up and I said, yes, sir, I will take this medication, sir. Yes, no. And I was actually on Cinemet for a good few years until I was about in my late teens, I think. Yeah.
Wow. And were you able to function better when you were on the medication?
Yes, eventually, yes, but obviously I mean, my colleagues at school used to play some tricks on me. For example, one particular trick was if they would decide, because I went to a grammar school, very, very good school, and if we had to move often quite some distance between classes to different buildings on the campus. And one particular day, I think I was about 10 or 11. These 2 or 3 boys thought they were going to be late for class, but their reason they were going to be late for class was because I was too slow and they were going to help me into the classroom. So these boys physically grabbed me under my arms and dragged me into the classroom where the maths teacher, I remember it so clearly, laid me on the floor in front of the chalkboard at the front of the room and had to stay there the whole lesson.
Oh, man.
And I was pleading with us and listen, all I can get, because because I grew up having to move my whole body weight around, I was quite strong, and I was trying to say, listen, sir, and it was a lady teacher, so it was quite unusual to call a lady teacher sir, but she was a very old school teacher. And we said, sir, all I want to do is sit in my desk and I'll be better by the end of the lesson. But she insisted on me lying on the floor the whole lesson on my back. Horrible, horrible.
Oh,
but I did have a great time at school, actually, as it happened.
You did?
I think because my mother and father encouraged me to take part in everything possible. Now, I've always been quite a gregarious kind of boy anyway. And just because I wasn't as fast as the other boys, or I couldn't walk properly, I was still determined to do whatever I wanted or have a go anyway. So I'd have a go. I joined the school choir. I took part in production, plays and stuff. And I tried to play sport to the best of my ability because I loved it. I loved it, but children can be particularly mean, and I didn't realize it at the time. But I mean, one guy actually recently contacted me on LinkedIn and apologized for bullying me. Wow. Now, I remember I can only remember one incident where he punched me he was pretending to get closer and closer to punching me. And he actually punched me on the nose and gave me a nosebleed. But I didn't classify that as bullying because I knew who he was. But it had obviously stuck in his mind. Years and years later, he came back and apologized to me. I thought, hey, wow. It's amazing what you can block out, when.
Well, also, it's amazing to me that your personality, like Rhoda Khan was talking, one of my previous guests, about we bring who we are to Parkinson's, and your personality, and I love your description of your gregariousness. It's certainly true. Did I really watch a film of you flying on a plane?
Yes, you did. And that was one of my, see, I'm getting terribly excited now. No, that was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. Now,
I mean, we were like standing on the plane?
Yes.
Like, explain to me how that even happened.
And basically what you do, you climb on, because I've got strong arms because I'm so used to sort of lifting my own body weight. You and they have grab rails on the, because it's an old World War I plane that you buy plane, and you clamber up onto the wing, and they have a structure right at the top in the middle with a comprehensive harness, I might add, and you're harnessed in the groin area and then over your shoulders, and it's quite a snug fit. There's still room to move about, but then it's one of the most. It's like being on a roller coaster, 800 feet in the air.
Oh my gosh! You are an adventurous spirit. Was amazing. That was an incredible clip. What I also want to talk about is the three things that you would like someone who's been recently diagnosed with Parkinson's to know. What would you say to them?
Firstly, I'd say be kind to yourself. It wasn't your choice. And it's okay to feel down and share your thoughts with others. I would also say it's not a catastrophe. Try and keep active for as long as possible. And whatever you do, keep up your social life. You are still you. And it's super important to remember that. You might not be able to do everything that you used to be able to do, but you are still you. And I would also say celebrate the little wins and strive to be happy.
And give me an example of a little win for you, like a recent little win.
A little win for me is, and this might sound very, very strange and simple, but a little win for me is being able to carry my thermos flask with a straw in, with a top on, from the kitchen to my dining room or my workstation, as it now is, without spilling any coffee out, bearing in mind there is a top on it. Mm-hmm. Just to simply carry that into the room without spilling it. Or
well done.
That's a little win for me.
Yeah. I get it.
Another little, I'll give you another example as well, is walking into a room and being able to walk without touching any of the furniture to give me a balance. The furniture, that's a win for me. Mm-hmm. And they say they don't sound they sound like nothing to anybody else. Mm-hmm. Another little win I shall give you is being able to keep all the food on my plate at dinner time. Yeah. For some reason, my body, I'm sure it has a gremlin in it somewhere. It's like, that just happens to just when I least expect it. But strangely, we have a Labrador that always seems to know when I'm about to either be disconnected or twitch. And Poodle gets launched across the room, and she's there ready to catch it every time. It's uncanny.
But they are uncanny, those dogs. They know. I have a Chesapeake Bay Retriever and right now a Golden Lab staying with me, and also a mutt. And they, you know what's interesting, Matt? I think you'll appreciate this. They don't seem to go around my husband when he's eating. They seem to go around me.
They do know. We have a chocolate Labrador, but I've always been brought up with animals. And beautiful. The thing that I love about them is they love unconditionally. Yeah. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do, but they also come to your aid. I mean,
you grew up with Parkinson's, and then, you also had to make your way as a young man to find work. And how was that for you? And what did you do?
It was quite tricky. It'll make more sense actually if I kind of just say what happened to me at university, because
sure.
I went to, I think it's important to stress I could only live the life that I led because I didn't know any different. I just tried to do everything I could. And nobody ever said, this is the beauty of it. Nobody ever said, you can't do this because you have Parkinson's. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever said that to me. So when I did my law degree, I was out with the lads playing football or soccer, I beg your pardon. I'd have a drink with them in the bar, and I was doing a law degree now, which is fantastic. I really enjoyed doing the law. However, I was enjoying myself too much and getting a bit blasé, really. But having said that, when it came to the part of the course where I had to do pretend or mock legal battles or mock legal cases between the different students, I found that I could win simply by being a better person or an actor, if you like, than the person I was arguing against, because I was much more animated than the other person. I was much better at picking holes in what they were saying, and yet I was quite often on a losing point of law. And that worried me a lot, actually, the fact that because I was more, I was more confident in front of a group of people. than the other guys were. So I could often just put their argument because they weren't put the argument down because they weren't as confident as I was.
Wow.
So
and
yeah.
What do you attribute your confidence to? Is it just your personality, or is it just like you were determined to do whatever you could, or what do you think your confidence came from?
I think it must be in my inner psyche, really, because I've always been quite a confident person. It was quite interesting, actually, because my mother, when I was at junior, when I just got my Parkinson's diagnosis, I used to speak with a very strong Northwest accent. And my
what does
mother,
that sound like?
I can't even do it now, unfortunately. But it was very Manchester-esque, quite sort of hard accent. And despite coming from Manchester, my mother hated my accent. And actually, unbeknownst to her and me, in fact, I had elocution lessons for like 5 or 6 years. Now, that has helped me on my Parkinson's journey no end. Because not only did I learn to enunciate and open and speak properly, which has helped my speech tremendously, it also gave me a great deal of confidence when I had to compete at music festivals and drama festivals and perform in front of lots of different people, despite the fact I was either sat on a chair or just a bit wobbly. That was just the norm for me.
Yeah, but makes sense.
It was quite tricky though, because I ended up getting asked to vacate my place on the course of my law degree. And one of the reasons was, and perhaps it's not really, and I guess I'm not really sure whether it's an excuse, but during my exams, because I couldn't write very well, I had to dictate all my examinations. And if you've ever had to dictate 5 law essays in 4 hours to somebody sat next to you in a room on your own, who you've never met before, whose writing you can barely understand, it's very disconcerting and very, very off-putting. And I lost my faith in the course because I just simply could not get the amount of knowledge down in the format they wanted, in the time they wanted.
Right.
And I just got a bit disconcerted, really. So, yeah.
And so then what did you do?
Well,
because I know, and now you have a position where aren't you work as supportive?
Job, dream job. Yeah, well, after I got asked to vacate, I did 3 years in London doing my law degree, and then got asked to vacate. I never say I got asked to leave or got kicked out. I always say I got asked to vacate my place on the course because it doesn't sound quite as bad. But yes, I was kicked out, I guess, because I
like asked to vacate. We can go with that.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, isn't it? But no, after that, I got a job in advertising funded publishing, which I spent 25 years in, ranging from selling advertising space to actually physically putting publications together, collecting advertising copy, liaising with clients. And I really enjoyed it. And I worked for 3 or 4 different companies well into my mid-40s. Into my early 40s before I got made redundant. And obviously 40-something with Parkinson's, despite the fact I had numerous amount of sort of extracurricular stuff that I'd got on my CV, which most of the people hadn't done. I've been very fortunate. I've travelled loads. I was in the Scouts. I've canoed. I've abseiled. I had to go at everything, even if I couldn't do it properly. I'd have to go at everything. And but the fact that I'd put on my CV that I had Parkinson's, and the fact I got my O levels and A levels didn't count for anything. because I'd got Parkinson. Nobody wanted to employ me.
So then what happened?
Well, my colleagues who'd been to my school kept saying, Matt, you must take off the fact you've got Parkinson's off your curriculum vitae. And I stood firm and I said, no. I have done so much with Parkinson's. Why should I be ashamed of putting my condition down to an employer?
Good for you.
Because if they really want, if they read my CV, sorry,
no, that's okay.
Make you dizzy now.
No, I'm not dizzy.
I said to them, listen, if they read my CV, they will want, if they really want me, they'll see over my Parkinson's, call me in for an interview, and they'll be able to see everything I've done. I was a photographer at the 2012 Olympics.
Wow.
And I had International Olympic Committee recognition for that.
Wow.
Not recognition, beg your pardon, accreditation at the London 2012 Games. And I went for a job as a part-time photographer in my local newspaper, and they didn't even give me an interview. And I was thinking, why is this? But anyway, I did a lot of advocacy work for Parkinson's in the meantime.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And it was during that time I was doing an interview actually in the same room as I am now. And there was a film crew there. And like we're talking now, I got on so well with the chap I was talking to. We did all the conversation in one take. And the video was shown at a conference at Heathrow Terminal 5, the airport in London. And the chief executive officer of Havas Links, who I work for now, saw it and he said, Matt, really enjoyed your interview. I think we can help each other. Here's my card. And that was 5 years ago, and I've never, ever looked back.
I love that story.
It's fantastic.
You know, and I think it's really true. We all want to find work where people see us for who we are, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And it sounds like you landed in that position, and I'm not a bit surprised. I do want to talk about your cards, though. These are amazing. Can you tell me, yeah, we'll scroll down so people can just see a little bit about them. That each one of these cards has a different story, right?
They're actually divided up into 4 sections, although here they're all together. We have Parky Hacks, Parky Tips, funny stories, and we have Parky Peeps. Now, this is to show, this shakes on the beach. For example, if you click on that, if you go down to that one and you click on it, who needs a cocktail shaker when you've got Parkinson's? So the idea behind it is you're turning what potentially could be awkward into a positive.
Gotcha.
And can you see the logo moving in the top?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have that tattooed on my leg now, although it doesn't move like that. But it's exactly the same colours as that. And it's a lot of fun. But no, Parky Life came about. Parky Life is a passion project, essentially. And
I noticed you have Muhammad Ali and Michael J. Fox and Alan Alda. Did you interview them, or did you just talk?
No, we wanted to make people feel comfortable with their diagnosis. And these guys were very familiar to everybody in the globally, we figure. And so we put those in. We emailed the little bits to make sure they were all true to the relevant people.
Oh, and there you are, Matt.
There I am.
Let's click on that one.
Yes, you click on this one. It says photographer, positivity activist, tower climber. Now, where these steps come from, when my card was designed, work had done a sponsored run up a tower block in the centre, the tallest at the time. It was the tallest building in Manchester. And we had to race up 43 stories. Wow. And we did it to raise money for a local cancer charity.
Beautiful.
Now, bearing in mind, I was in my late 40s at the time. I beat many of the youngsters who were less than half my age. And I think I climbed 40. I mean, the time is irrelevant, really, but I did 43 stories in just under 13 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Which I was immensely proud of.
Yeah. That is amazing. Speaking of which, what do you do besides medication? What are the activities and things that you do that help you manage your Parkinson's? I mean, it sounds like exercise is important to you.
It is. I can't do an awful lot of it. But 15 years ago, I don't know what you can see on my head. I had deep brain stimulation.
You did? Okay.
And that has made a tremendous difference to my way of life. It's cut off the ups and downs. I still get ups and downs, but they're not nearly as pronounced. So I do have off and on periods for sure, but they're nowhere near as difficult and as disabling as they once were. And it's quite interesting because I have different electrode manufacturers as I do that manage my stimulator, which is quite unusual. I'm a hybrid.
Oh, wow.
I don't know whether am I allowed to say the name of the companies? I'm not sure. Sure. Okay, well, I have a Medtronic electrode and I have a Boston Scientific battery. And I had that this is my third battery, and it's a rechargeable battery as well.
Wow.
Which I have to recharge. I have I should have prepared actually and I can see them there just on the table, just over there.
Yeah. For those of us that are listening, or listeners that don't know, and we can talk about this more, but deep brain stimulation, I mean, that's a big decision. Did you think about it for a long time and then decide to do it, or?
No, I didn't. I think the thing is, healthcare is all about relationships and building strong bonds and relationships with your HCP, if you have a nurse, with your nurse. Now, I believed everything my specialist said he would do to my benefit, and he wouldn't recommend anything that would not be he didn't think would be beneficial to my condition. So he said I would be suitable. I had all the tests and I was suitable. So bearing in mind, I'd had at that stage 15 years ago, I'd had pretty much everything that was on the market anyway.
Yeah.
And yet I was still having these ups and downs. I thought, I didn't, ironically enough, I didn't actually know what the operation looked like, so to speak. I hadn't, because YouTube wasn't big back then, and you couldn't really go and research the operation. It was only actually after my operation that I actually saw what I went through. Not me personally, but the BBC had actually been filming at the hospital. Wow. Where I was having somebody else having the same surgery with the same team that I'd had, and I thought, I'm glad I didn't see that beforehand. But having said that, though, I had both surgeries together, and the reason behind that was clearly, although I came across as like, yes, I'm a big tough man, it's not going to bother me. My body obviously felt it would. And I actually passed out when they were preparing me for the, they screw a stereostatic frame to your head. And I passed out when they were doing that. And then they must have thought the stress of the operations would be too much. So they did both of the operations together.
Mm.
So I woke up in the intensive care unit, and I stayed there for a night. But it's amazing how far they've come, you know.
Yeah.
Because
That was 15 years ago, and
I
it's a different.
I was in hospital for nearly 3 weeks because they thought they saw, because they put the stimulator just under your skin of your chest, and because your skin wasn't used to it, the skin went a bit red in reaction, and they thought I got an infection. So
They had to watch it.
So I had to watch it. So I stayed in hospital. But as it happened, that I was fine, and I had the same battery for 9 years. Yeah. But
yeah, that, you know, it's amazing, Matt. It sounds like you've tried just about anything, you know. And where, you know, by the way, where can our listeners go to get a deck of your cards if they're interested in that?
If they go to the website,
right. And can you show them? Can you show them, by the way?
Of
Because I think you
course,
have them there, right?
I have a. This is the first generation one of the cards, and there's
awesome.
so many of them.
That's great.
And I often play a game, and it's called 52 card pickup, and it's quite common when you have Parkinson's. You know,
and then is it like picking a card? Do you then have an inspiration for that day?
With the podcast, now you just drop them on the floor and have to pick them up again. That's
good exercise too. In Nia,
it is.
Yeah, in Nia, the technique that I teach, we go up and down from the floor, right? That we practice that because, you know, you want to be able to do that, right?
Absolutely.
So you got to practice what you want to be able to do.
Sure. So, I mean, I'm very lucky that I've subconsciously, I've always done the right things growing up with Parkinson's. I was always very active. I used to sail. I used to play football. I wasn't very good, but I used to be very, very active as a young man. I obviously had to sit out sometimes because Parkinson's it doesn't play fair. Sometimes it just pulls a fast one on you. But I think you have to realize that sometimes you have a choice in life. You can either sit down and feel sorry for yourself, or you can decide to move on and just try and enjoy your life as best you can. I've found now, and I actually label myself a positivity activist, because I've found that if I'm down or if I'm not feeling so great, nobody wants to know you really very well. So I've actually become, I'm not very good at being sad, because people kind of leave you. People don't like sad. I don't know, people understand, but if you're happy, people will flock to you and people will get you. If you smile, it's like if you smile at people, it's engaging. People will talk back to you. If you're glum, people will sort of tend to avoid you. And I think that's one thing. I'm not ashamed of having Parkinson's. And I think many people do try and hide the fact they've got Parkinson's. And I wish everybody's different. I know that. But you're still you. Never stop being you, the you that you've always been. I think you just have to kind of realize that, yes, you might have some restrictions now, and life can get tough, but enjoy life while you can. You're still you.
Beautiful.
I say that.
You know what, Matt, it reminds me that you've said that you're gregarious and that you like being in front of people. So it makes sense to me that you would want to engage with people. And it is true, while we honor all of our feelings, when we emphasize, as you have found, that connection with others, that's what feeds you. And as you said, we're all different, but that's what feeds you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's not to say, though, it's Mental Health Awareness Week.
Yeah.
Is it globally? I think it is globally, isn't it? Now, I've had my ups and downs. I haven't always had I mean, sometimes when I was at home, I began to develop dystonia, of the laryngeal dystonia.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was working in the telesales office. So I sounded like I had really bad laryngitis all the time.
Mm.
And that made me quite sad. And I used privately, and I hope this doesn't come as too much of a shock, but I think it's always best sort of temper the good stories with the ones that maybe aren't so good, but have made me a stronger person inside anyway.
Sure.
I used to sort of get so I used to go like bang in frustration at the fact I couldn't speak or I was losing my voice, because that would mean I wouldn't be able to be the gregarious smart, or I thought this is what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so several times I had a big bruise underneath my cheek, and I would just say, listen, I just fell over. And I haven't done that for well over 20 odd years. It made me a much stronger person. But at the time, it just got out those feelings that, hey, but it's made me, I would say, I would never recommend doing it, because boy, does it hurt. But it's made me a much stronger person mentally, I think. I think you have to have some down times to really, really appreciate the good times as well.
And science backs you up, They say that resilience comes from the ability to recognize the negative, and choose to spend time in the positive, but not to pretend that it doesn't exist. In fact, to say, yeah, I know that that's part of reality. And this is also true. I make these beautiful cards. I can fly on this incredible airplane. I can meet other people, right?
I think I must like planes, because I like flying inside a plane. I've actually jumped out of a plane as well.
I have jumped out of a plane, Matt, but I have to tell you, I don't think I'm going to try what you did.
No, see, it is such. It
looks completely scary. And I can't believe that you did it. And I have to say that I have enjoyed our time together, because you are, bar none, one of the most gregarious people I've met. And a good friend of mine said, when's the last time you did something for the first time? And Matt, you remind me that it's time for me to ask myself that question. So thank you.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I thoroughly encourage you to. I think it's getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You have to challenge yourself, and it really does make you feel alive. Scared, but alive.
Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you, Caroline. It's my pleasure.
And I welcome back to our call, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Caroline. I didn't realize I'd said most of those things. How tremendous.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear it again. It makes me realize once again how amazing you are. And I still feel the same way, by the way. I am not standing on that plane.
Well, I've got another exciting kind of event lined up. I'm going to go on the world's fastest zip line in Wales, called High Velocity. You on a zip line, you're lying on your front, and you go over 100 miles an hour for about a mile and a bit. So that's something else I've got lined up. But that's again, it's something I've always fancied doing as soon as I found out the place was open. But no, I should be doing that sometime in July.
Yeah.
So
well, that sounds amazing. Now, that's something to do on a summer vacation. That sounds,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, Matt, you shared some really insightful experiences today, but I wanted to ask you about the dark times. You talked about how you celebrate the small wins and you add those together. But what is it like for you when you need to ask for help, or when folks want to help you and you may not need or want it. How do you navigate that? Can you give some insight on that?
Firstly, it's super important to say, yeah, I might be happy now, but I'm not like this 100% of the time. I don't think it's mentally possible to be happy like this every single minute of the day. But I actually find that feeling sorry for myself, I try not to spend too much time on my own, because people with Parkinson's, as a community, we do tend to overthink things a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it's not good. So I always try and be with people. That's my first sort of point.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I don't like being sad anyway, because it makes my symptoms worse. I think I kind of said that. But as far as asking for help, I think it's super important that people like to help. And I'll ask the audience, think about the last time you helped somebody. How did that make you feel? And if you think about it, when you help somebody as a helper, it fills you with an enormous sense of well-being. So when people ask to help you, it's coming from a good place. So don't feel offended at all. I personally, if quite often people will try and link my arm, and unfortunately I have to decline because my balance would just mean I'd topple the other way, and it wouldn't look good on the floor with a person on top of you in the middle of the street. So I can say it's important to thank people for their offer of help. And if you need it, please, if you do need it and you can accept it, do. There is absolutely nothing wrong with asking for help. If it helps you, it's bound to help the person that's helping you. So yeah, but always say thank you for your offer. If you decline it, just say thanks ever so much, but please don't be offended if I don't take your help on this occasion. But it's great, and it's the more you can do it, the more positive response you'll get, and the better you'll feel in yourself as well.
We had a comment in the chat, Matt. Someone says, I think because his last name is Eagles, he likes to fly.
Well, there could be something in that, I guess. Yeah. It was funny, actually, because I went through a phase where I had panic attacks, and that was in my early mid-20s, I think. And I had to have cognitive behavioral therapy to sort that out. And one of the things I couldn't do at that particular time in my life was fly. Mm-hmm. But I overcame that with the behavioral CBT, and now I'll go.
Amazing. CBT is amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to start off with, but you've got to stick with it. I mean, I think panic attacks are actually quite common with people with Parkinson's, particularly in off periods. Because you think, oh my goodness, I can't move. But when you think you can't move, think of a positive thing to do when you sat down. Think, if there's nothing you can do about it, then why worry? It's not your fault. You just have to sort of try and take a bit of a breath and think, right, okay, my body's saying that I can't move at the moment, so I'm not going to. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to lose my consciousness. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to relax. And I think it's important to recognize those periods. You're not going to be able to do everything you used to be able to. That's reality. However, enjoy it. Well, enjoy the sitting down. It's not comfortable particularly, but hey, it's a chance to sit down, relax, or try and relax, and just sort of take some time for yourself to be with yourself or whoever you're with. But don't let it stop you.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you're talking about loss of ability as time goes on and your perspective on that. And I know that next week we're going to be talking with Chris Jones, and he's an amazing actor. And that was one of the things that he was grappling with and is grappling with, is as he ages, the things that he loved to do, which was acting, has become harder to do. So he started to work with translation. But how has that been for you? And what's your perspective on that?
I think it's, I mean, first I'd quite like to talk to Chris at some stage, but I think it's easier for me because I have got no life to compare my life with, because I've had to do everything I've done with Parkinson's. So I can't really sort of say, I used to be able to do that, now I can't. Mm-hmm. Because I can't remember ever being any different now. So in that respect, it's easier for me. However, I think you develop, well, it's funny because Parkinson strangely can give benefits. You can be, it brings out a strangely latent creative side in you, or certainly can do. It might be photography, it might be drawing, it might be art. But I would say my advice to Chris would be to just enjoy the times that you can do something and enjoy those times. But I think there will be things that he can do and he will enjoy. Mm-hmm. But he will also have to say, listen, sometimes I might not be able to do all those things, so I'll have to rest. And you just have to think of something. You reward yourself for resting, put it that way. Mm. And I think if you have something, if you right, I think you have. It's like aging anyway. Sometimes you just can't always do what you did when you were younger, and I think that's nature, I guess. Yeah. But keep an interest in things, you know.
Yeah, I know my dad is teaching me that. He had a stroke 1.5 years ago, and he's getting back slowly. And some of the things he won't get back, and his humility, and his patience, and his recognition, like you said, of this is the new reality. Yeah, and I still can do so much. Yeah, and to savor those small wins, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, that is so, I mean, sometimes I think when I'm doing chores in the house, and I just think, my towel maybe has fallen on the floor. When I was much younger, I might think, you know, I'll just leave it there and my mum might pick it up. Now I say to myself, Matthew, don't be so lazy. It's lazy to do that. So I'll go back and I'll maybe kneel on the floor and try and fold the towel and put it back on the towel rail. But I have I have much more of a conscience now, and it does help me. It's like an inner voice saying, "Come on, Matthew, you can do this. You can do this." That really helps me.
That's a great tagline. Matt, thank you so much for sharing your lunchtime with me and for all the insights and enthusiasm you shared with us today. Is there anything else that you want to share or remind folks who may need support in dealing with their Parkinson's, or something you wish caregivers could know as our last?
Yeah, I think the caregivers are super, super important, and I'd like to give a huge shout out to everybody who knows somebody with Parkinson's, who looks after somebody with Parkinson's. Because as patients, we think we have it tough because we don't know what's coming. But for caregivers or partners, wives, husbands, or whoever, it must be extraordinarily difficult. And I want to give them all a big, huge hug from me. But I think one message is that I'd like to leave everybody with is, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. So make the best of your own situation.
Wow.
And smile. And thank you for having me.
Can I keep that one? We're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep that. Matt, again, Thank you. And thank everyone. Thank you all for joining us today and for stopping by the JCC's Facebook page to join us. Please let us know in the comments below, or you can email Whitney Chapman at wchapman@mmjccm if you have suggestions or thoughts, or you want to come on the show. And if you'd like to sign up for, a lot of people don't know that we have our Parkinson's programs, and they're all online, and they're subsidized by the Edmund J. Safra Foundation and in partnership with Northwell Health. So it's medically supervised. So if you are interested in participating in any of our programs, please see the link in the comments form and fill out an intake form and come join us. As Matt said, make today a good day. And remember, you can email Whitney and let her know too. So Matt, what do they say? Cheerio?
No, you can say bye-bye. I accept all currencies of thank you and goodbye.
Oh, yes, we have to talk about your cards too, and make sure you get Matt's cards and sign up for those too. Matt, thank you for being one of the most dynamic interviews I've ever had.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, Caroline. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.